Thank you very much, Topsy. Am I audible? Oh, okay. The GCIS members who are with us here today, the Deputy Minister for Sport, Arts and Culture, Ms. Nukawe Mafu, the Director General of the Department, Vusumuzi Nkize, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. We've gathered here this afternoon on the third day of the month of August. The month of August is observed in South Africa and in the South African government calendar as the period where the country commemorates Women's Day and Women's Month. The 2020 commemoration events will be held under the theme Realizing Women's Rights for an Equal Future. Women's Month 2020 takes place in the context of the dual pandemics of COVID-19 and gender-based violence, or gender-based violence and femicide, the GBVF, which have underlined the urgent need to more decisively deal with the legacy of structural oppression, to accelerate the transformation of society. This includes the transformation of unequal power relations between women and men, and addressing gender oppression, patriarchy, sexism, racism, ageism, and to create an environment which enables women to take full control of their lives, reach their full potential, and contribute to the country's development. Since our last interaction with the nation, the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture has worked tirelessly to ensure that relief reaches as many practitioners as possible. As the first wave of relief draws to an end, we deem it necessary to come and account to the sector and the nation as a whole. Indeed, it was never an easy journey. We all chartered for the first time as a country in this rocky terrain. I would also touch on some of the critical lessons derived in this experience. But I also want to say, as we deal with COVID-19, we have not taken our eyes off the ball insofar as transformation is concerned for the entire sector. And we will, as we move, particularly this week, brief the nation and interact on how we are tackling issues of transformation in all our sporting codes, issues of transformation in the area of racism, dealing with racism in sport in particular, and gender discrimination and so on, but also ensuring that we follow the eminent persons group's outcome, which they released just over a month ago. At the level of arts and culture, we are, as you all know, that fundamental pieces of legislation which are about transformation in this area have been referred to Parliament by the President, so that Parliament deals with them. And for us, those are key critical pieces of legislation in regulating the industry of arts, culture, and heritage. Now, on the overall performance of the first wave of COVID-19 Relief Fund, based on the set criteria, the department received a total number of 5,322 applications in the categories of sport, digital, as well as arts, culture, and heritage. You will see that this number is a bit above the number we reported on last year. I mean, last time we came here. The reason is that there are some we got applications which were stuck in the spam email. We got late, close to 1,000, and we're processing. those as well. Through the adjudication and appeals processes, 4,602 applications were then recommended. A total of 1,570 was not recommended, and this is still some of them undergoing a process of appeal and so on. Some of the reasons shared by the adjudication panels for not recommending applications vary from applicant to applicant. And these include, amongst others, in the sports sector, it was confirmed that some of the athletes have other sources of income, such as employment and/or a business, whilst others could not be confirmed as national athletes, coaches, or technical personnel. Other practitioners, particularly in the arts and culture sector, had no indication of cancelled or postponed events, or generally did not fall within the set criteria which we shared with the public much earlier. Incomplete or incorrect forms were used. Some didn't use the form, but just wrote in the body of the email without providing detailed information that would be required in the form. For digital, other applications were not innovative, had no innovative ideas. They did not respond to the fourth industrial revolution, that is, provided ideas which did not respond to COVID-19 environment and regulations. We also had applicants who were not compliant with tax, especially companies. There are currently 117 outstanding applications being finalized by the department. To date, the total of 61 million rands has been disbursed to beneficiaries. It is also important to note that our provincial offices are at different stages implementing the provincial relief or provincial reliefs as announced in our last briefing. Their efforts will further assist in widening our reach on the second wave of COVID-19 relief fund. And I must say, ladies and gentlemen, that whilst we are dealing with the relief fund and dealing with the second wave of this relief fund, we are also looking broadly on the issue of the economic recovery plan, which matter is what we'll deal with in our next phase, because we believe that relief is important. So is the process of protecting jobs and job opportunities in the sector as a whole, and position ourselves as a sector to really ensure that we do not become a major victim, particularly when it comes to issues of jobs and job creation. So in conceptualizing the second wave of relief, the department listened to the plight of practitioners. And I must say, and thank especially the practitioners, the national organizations who have met, who have consulted all the time, even now, as we are grappling with the issue of the economic recovery plan. We have engaged them, and some of them have already indicated CIFSA, the Confederation, for instance, of the creative industry, has indicated their inclination to contribute in shaping the economic recovery plan. SASFED, which is the Federation of film industry, already have put up a proposal. They've reached out to others. They've clinched a deal with Netflix to help the creatives in the space so that the impact of COVID-19 is mitigated. So we really thank them for that. We thank the music side of things through SAMIC, who are also keen to make a contribution in terms of ideas and so on the issue of economic recovery plan. So the department further conducted a number of consultations with those who were involved in the process of administering relief, including, amongst others, sector organizations, panelists, and our national entities. The second wave will therefore take into account the shortcomings and experiences of the first rollout, categorized as follows. 1, the period of the call for applications to be at least 14 days to allow athletes and practitioners sufficient time to make use of the opportunity. You'll recall, ladies and gentlemen, that last time there was an outcry, particularly from the industry, that we didn't give them enough time to make necessary application. 2, the application form to indicate demographics, and that's very important. That is disability, gender, race, age, province, and at least district. 3, the application form to have personal details as per ID documents, here real names, not their nicknames. 4, all applicants must be completed online, including the uploading of supporting documents. The model to be used will be outlined later here below. Eliminate the criterion of cancelled or postponed events, as it would not be feasible or appropriate for the next phase. We've also been sensitized by the Auditor General's office that we need to emphasize the tax compliant, that applicants are tax compliant. I'm mentioning Auditor General's office just to assure everybody that right from the beginning we decided that we are going to be working with the Office of the Auditor General. So as we move with all the process, they are part and parcel of the process to ensure that everything happens and is done accordingly. Other considerations on sport: all applications would have to be submitted through the national federations. There will be 2 deadlines, with the first deadline dealing with the submitting of applications to national federations, which would be of no consequence in terms of the acceptability of the application to the department. There would be a second non-negotiable deadline by which all national federations will have to submit all their received applications to the central portal. Note that national federations would be the first stage of quality assurance and verification of information. A checklist will be provided to them. On arts, culture, and heritage, there will be collaboration with provincial governments to assist in the allocation of databases for qualifying creatives at local levels. The outlined criteria would apply to all applicants from various levels of practice, professional, amateurs, and community practitioners. There would be a clear articulation that the relief is meant for individuals, and the application forms would be designed as such. Available statistics and databases for the creative sector would be harnessed where there are deficiencies. That is information on jobs, employment, contribution to the GDP, existing organizations or companies, skills shortages, training institutions, and so on and so forth. The criteria of those who can apply will be the following. On sport, the relief will be available to athletes, coaches, and technical support personnel on events-based income. To qualify for sport, the following will be considered: athletes, coaches, and technical support personnel who rely solely on income generated from the participating in sport competitions or events. Applicants must provide proof of having earned income from national and international competitions in the past. Possible considerations to be given to personal trainers who operate as freelancers, unemployed, and not operating as small businesses, because that is catered for by the small business department. Now, those will be excluded on spot. It's athletes, coaches, technical personnel who do not rely solely on the income earned from participating in sporting events, and this includes athletes, coaches, and technical personnel with other sources of income. 2, athletes on fixed-term contracts also fall in this category of the ones who are going to be excluded. These athletes are catered for in terms of contracts entered into with either the federations or clubs. Typically, the athletes earn salaries or wages. Arts, culture, and heritage. The relief would be available for individuals in arts, culture, and heritage sector or cultural and creative industries. The categories to be provided with relief will apply only to performance and celebrations, visual arts and craft, and audiovisual and interactive media. Now, they are broken down as follows. On performing arts, covering creative and performing artists, dancers, choreographers, entertainers, comedians, poets, actors, film directors. On music, musicians, principal artists, and backing musicians, singers, sound recording engineers, and producers. On festivals and events, stage managers, live sound engineers, lighting technicians, other technicians, riggers, etc. On fine art, covering visual artists, sign writers, decorative painters, painting, drawing, ceramic artists. And photography, photographers, film and performing arts. On crafts, potters and related workers, handicraft workers, in wood, basketry, embroidery, crafts, and so on. On audiovisual and interactive media, film and video, film, stage and related directors and producers. Exclusions for arts, culture, and heritage. Applicants who do not rely solely on the income earned from participating in arts, culture, and heritage activities. 2, arts, culture, and heritage practitioners on fixed-term contracts may not apply. 3, companies, NPIs, NGOs, group applications, and so on. These would be catered for on the Presidential Employment Stimulus Program. Applicants who benefited in the first cycle of the department's relief fund or its provincial counterparts. And lastly, support sectors such as catering, transport, and accommodation will not be catered for. Eligibility, preference will be given to South African citizens. Applicants must provide proof of having earned income through arts, culture, and heritage activities, provide contracts or invoices or bank statements or municipal trading permits in the 12 months period ending in February 2020. Practitioners would need to prove their applicability in the sector through provision of their profiles, portfolio of work, academic achievements in the sector, and/or reference from other prominent practitioners who have been in the field for 10 years or more. I must add that these criterion have been shared, and most of them have been proposed by the industry itself, the sector. And once more, thanks for their contribution. Who will be eligible for this relief? Practitioners, individuals who rely solely on income generated from participating in sport arts, culture, and heritage activities as above. Practitioners, individuals who are dependent on gigs, are freelancers and independent contractors, and on sport activities. Practitioners will be required to submit compliance documents such as a valid 13-digit South African identity document and proof of income, and through their works with the sector, signed contracts, bank statement, municipal trading permits, and so forth. A valid tax clearance certificate or tax number for those practitioners who have been exempted from paying tax. The duration of the relief will cover a period of 3 months, September to November 2020. The proposed amount of relief, the relief amount is set at 2,200 using the rationale of the expanded public works program, the EPWP rate structure of 95 to 100 rands per day. Budget provisions. To date, 61 million rands has been disbursed to beneficiaries. The department has taken into consideration the commitments for the unpaid beneficiaries in the first phase, estimated at 34 million rands. These would be people who would have been approved and in the process of getting their relief. For the second phase, the amount that is allocated for relief is 77 million rands, of which 11 million rands has been ring-fenced for contribution towards the partnership with the Department of Small Business Development. If the entire amount is to be paid specifically towards beneficiaries and no other costs are considered, the allocation will cover the total of 11,666 practitioners. Those are athletes and artists based on calculating this very area. Our partnership with the Department of Small Business Development. The department has partnered with the Department of Small Business Development and have agreed to jointly set aside 22 million rands to respond to a plea from Cultural and Creative Industries Federation of South Africa, CIFSA, for the craft, design, and visual arts sector towards relief amid COVID-19 pandemic. I must say here that we applaud CIFSA for taking it upon themselves to represent the creatives, the artists in this instance, engaging government on behalf of the artists so that the artists benefit out of this process. We would want other structures and organizations to do the same, engage everybody, business, private sector, and everybody on behalf of their constituencies. A memorandum of understanding will be entered into on how the funds will be administered. A criteria and appointment of the adjudication panel is currently being finalized. The relevant industry bodies will be consulted for their expertise. Hopefully, by the end of August, the process of distribution will commence. Let me continue on the partnerships we are engaging. I've mentioned the Small Business Development Department, and we also are partnering with the Solidarity Fund. Now, Solidarity Fund, again, we want to express our appreciation for them availing 10,000 food or cash vouchers of 700 rands to the department, amounting to 7 million rands. The department will, together with provinces, develop a list of beneficiaries that will receive the vouchers. Beneficiaries will be identified in both urban and rural areas. Those that are receiving social grants and UIF will be excluded from benefiting. The vouchers will be made available to the athletes, artists, freelancers, and other eligible practitioners. The vouchers will be distributed by channels identified by Solidarity Fund. The department is currently in the process of finalizing the MOU with the Solidarity Fund. The involvement of sector organizations. CIFSA and other sector organizations are very critical stakeholder in the arts, culture and heritage sector, and will therefore be an integral part in the planning of the second phase of the COVID-19 funding. CIFSA and other sector organizations will be given a platform to outline their plans in supporting their members. This support should incorporate, amongst others, capacity building and providing support to the sector, forging partnerships with other entities that operate in the arts, culture, and heritage space to ensure extended reach and information dispensation. Working closely with the department funding agencies to leverage on their existing programs and policies. And we want to emphasize the area of capacity building and providing support for the sector as mainly run by SACIF in the industry. The directions in the opening of venues and contact spots. And this part is the last part of our briefing. On the reopening of the sector, we have to date undertaken the following. 1, we commenced with the process on the 6th of July 2020, on which we announced the directions regarding the reopening of sports, arts and culture premises and venues. This was then published in the Government Gazette. Guidelines expanded from the published directions for the premises that wished to open, together with an online application process, was launched on the 14th of July 2020 on the department's website, followed by a social media awareness communication. The process required the completion of an online application, signing a declaration letter, and uploading relevant documents like COVID-19 risk assessment and response plan, venue visitor safety guidelines, employee safety guidelines, including the appointment of safety officers. By the 24th of July 2020, a total of 35 applications were completed from 4 provinces at an equivalent of 18 museums, 7 cinemas, 5 theaters, and 5 libraries. We then appointed an internal technical committee for adjudication of all applications. The closing date was set for the 31st of July 2020. Further 20 applications were received, which are still to be adjudicated. Adjudication of the first batch of applications has been concluded. There are some venues that were conducted for questions of clarity and more information. Responses should be received in the coming week. I must indicate that the team didn't receive any applications from the galleries. We, however, sitting with the possibility of a request for extension, since the total numbers of applications are not a true reflection of the venues we have in the whole country. From the 11th of June 2020, as part of Government Level 3 Risk Adjustment Strategy, we gazetted directions for the resumption of sporting activities, namely training of matches for non-contact professional sport, for the resumption of training and professional contact sport for training. The directions required sport bodies must ensure they submit plans that indicate the measures they will put in place before the resumption of activities. To date, the department received 75 major sport bodies and approximately 580 from clubs, those in the business of sport, the fitness industry, and also sport facilities and recreational organizations. Of the plans that were assessed, for the 6 sporting bodies received approval to resume activities. Athletics South Africa advised the ministry and the department that at this level, they will not be seeking approval to resume activities as they have conducted their own assessment against benchmarks and believe that it is not an appropriate stage to resume any activity. An internal monitoring team has been on the ground and monitored 11 of the PSL football clubs who received permission to train. All teams have taken all necessary measures to comply with the plans that they have submitted. We have also considered the return to play by contact sport, and we are pleased that 1. The Department of Health has concurred with the proposal for football to return to completing the season behind closed doors in a biologically safe environment, which is closed environment of the procured hotels, the transport hubs, training grounds, and stadia. This is subject, and this one is very important. This is subject to the plans they have submitted and all other protocols as outlined in the regulations and directions published by the department. So it therefore means that those plans should be adhered to. So it's not a fait accompli that people will just get into the field of play and play. They will play based on the plans which were submitted to the department. And we reserve the right to halt any activity if we feel and think that those protocols and those plans are not adhered to. The compliance officers of both South African Football Association, SAFA, and the National Soccer League, PSL, will work together and ensure that all measures comply with the commitment made by PSL in their submissions to government. We are expecting to receive the compliance officer's report from SAFA on the state of readiness of the NSL to resume play. And at this point, I must express my appreciation on how PSL and SAFA of late have been working together through the Joint Liaison Committee, and they have approached government, and they've been approaching government as one. And we applaud them for that, and we want that to continue happening. In closing, I would like to thank all our athletes and our artists for exercising patience during these trying times, not only with the department, but with government in general. A special appreciation to the chairman of Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs Football Club, Dr. Ivan Khoza, the Iron Duke, and Dr. Kaizer Mtaung Shincha Guluva for their contribution and reaching out to the needy during this period, the athletes. The Sia and Rachel Kolisi Foundation, again for reaching out. The football legends, Mr. Edward Motale Majans and Mr. Jeris Kosana, the Ladysmith Black Mambazo, our private sector organizations, and many others who I might not have mentioned here today, for lending a hand and providing food parcels to the most vulnerable, needy, and destitute practitioners of our sectors, including the legends, and for also providing the most needed personal protective equipment to our frontline staff workers in the healthcare sector. Your efforts did not go unnoticed. We thank you for that, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Minister. We are going now to open up for questions. We have our communication team, our colleagues from GCIS, who will be reading out questions to us. We have you as panelists, Minister Nathi Mthetwa, the Deputy Minister, Ms. Nocawe Mafu, and the Director General, Mr. Vusumuzi Mkhize. And my name is Topsy Musi. I will hear from colleagues on the floor in terms of questions. We're ready to take them.
Good day. There are no questions on the telephone line this side. Thank you.
Okay. The WhatsApp?
Thank you, Chair. On the WhatsApp line, I have a couple of questions. The first two questions are from Nazir from Glow TV. Just to clarify, are the artists or other related to the entertainment industry that work on freelance basis but have another source of income not eligible for any relief? The second question is, unprofessional sporting activities at the local level such as soccer allowed, and are spectators allowed? The third question is from, is from Matlazi from Times Live. Two questions from Matlazi. The first one, there is a video showing Kaizer Chiefs senior official Bobby Motaung appearing to break lockdown rules at a gathering with people who were drinking what looked like alcohol. Will this matter be reported to the police for investigation? The second question, has the PSL and SAFA reported back to the Minister on progress of investigations into clubs that broke regulation by training during the hard lockdown? The last question is from Marvin Charles from Cape Argos. Minister, many theatres in Cape Town have chosen to close their doors until next year, which would have devastating impact on the arts sector. Are you concerned about this? And will you be holding engagement with the arts sector on the revival of the industry? Those are the 5 questions for now.
Okay. Any other questions? All right.
Yeah, there's one that
Okay.
just came through now from Mark Lewis from Newsroom Africa, director to the minister. He's saying originally football was proposed to only return on level 1. What has SAFA or PSL done to accelerate this process to allow play to return as cases hit their peak? Thank you.
All right. Those are the 6 questions that we have. I think, Minister, if you the panel is comfortable, you can take them from here. I'm not sure if the mics are working. The mics are working. You can take them from. They are not. Okay. Okay. So the panel will decide how they break down the questions. So, should I start with the DG?
Yes.
Okay, ladies first. It's Women's Month.
It's Women's Month. Thank you very much, Minister. Morning, and the DG and the media team. I'll start anyhow, but I'll try to see and cover as much as I can. The first part that comes from Mark Lewis about the fact that why did we decide that soccer must go back early? I think Minister has explained that on the 11th of June, when we then announced the directions, then what has happened is that teams have applied and they've met the requirements. And of course, a lot of other considerations were met because remember, PSL had also an obligation to finish the league. And when they had met all the requirements that we had put to them as both the department and they have also had an agreement with SAFA, then we then agreed that they must go back to play. But of course, Mark Lewis is also raising a question that there is a rise in infections. The rise in infections is in the country, but also remember, one of the agreement is that each team tests every player, and therefore when they bring in their requirements, both to SAFA and the department, bring the results and say how many players have been positive. Even though in the public eye, it might look that there's a high number of players that are positive, but in average, we were quite comfortable that they could go back to play. The second questions are coming from Nazim. Nazim is asking about artists and freelancers. We are quite clear that this is a relief, and therefore a relief is some kind of assistance to those people that don't have any kind of income. And of course, we're trying to mitigate the effect that COVID-19 is having in the sector. So we are saying anybody who has got a source of income, according to the criteria that we are putting, might not qualify for relief, because you must be able to prove when you apply that the source of income depends on the areas that we deal with as the sector, whether athlete, artist, freelance, whatever. And you should also be showing to us that you have earned a salary up to February from the sector. But if you are earning a salary any other way, you are not going to be able to qualify, because the whole process is about those that we must be able to assist that are not able to earn anything at all at this point in time, because we are trying to mitigate the issues of poverty and the challenges that COVID is putting. So, of course, therefore, if you are earning a salary or you are earning an income from another source, you are not going to be able to qualify for the relief. And on the two issues about breaking the law Bobby that was seemed to have broken the law, drinking and clubs breaking the regulations. That's an issue of law enforcement. It might have happened in the area, but we are not policing people that are breaking the enforcement. The law enforcement agents must take its course on whoever is breaking the law. It doesn't matter whether it's Bobby, it doesn't matter whether it's Deputy Minister Mafu. If you break the COVID-19 laws, the law must take its course. It's not the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture that must go and then say, because you broke the law, we must do ABC. That's the issue of the law enforcement. Thank you very much. I thought I've covered a few. DG will come and deal with those that I haven't covered. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Minister and the Deputy Minister and the South African citizens. The Deputy Minister have covered a lot of ground. The only one is that are the amateurs football allowed or opened now to return to play? No. At this stage, we are talking about professional football. And that, as we said now, and must emphasize DM's message, they have submitted the plans, and that is PSL, and therefore then their plans have complied with the protocols of health that are required, as well as the regulations. And the emphasis here is on the biosafe environment, in which the international benchmark in Spain, England, as well as Germany has been used, and it has been seen that it contributes towards the containment of the spread, because it is a secluded area that then make sure that no one comes in or out, and that people are constantly tested, and if they are found to have contracted the virus, are then quarantined with immediate effect. So amateurs, for now, they can relax at home, do as other South Africans are doing in terms of exercise as per regulations, but not to return to the games. And then I think the issue, does Minister have any intervention in relation to Cape Town? It's not just Cape Town that is facing this bleak future. As we had said, that South Africa in general, the government decided to respond through a three-pillar approach. And that pillar approach is including economic recovery. Minister touched a bit on this, but indeed we do care, and there is an engagement with the independent theatres. We had a meeting with them, and we have even conducted them as part of the process of the employment stimulus package. Minister made it clear that we're still going to engage on a broader economic recovery plan with the sector, and definitely they will be part of that engagement, and we will do everything we can to prevent job losses while creating alternative jobs. I think those were the main things that were questions that I think Minister covered now.
Minister, there was a specific question that was directed to you. I'm not sure it's fully covered. Can you repeat it for the last time?
Okay. The question was from Mark Lewis from Newsroom Africa. He's saying, Mr. Minister, originally football was supposed to only retain on level 1. What has SAFA or PSL done to accelerate the process? I think the Deputy Minister did answer the question.
Okay.
They are directed to me. I'm one in 3.
Okay. No, it was fully covered. Can we do a second round of questions?
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Okay.
I have about 7 questions. The first one from Craig Ray from Daily Maverick. Is there any further clarity on when rugby can return to competition? Does it remain linked to level 1 now that football appears to have set a precedent at level 3? The second question from Tony from ENCA. He's saying, Minister says he reserves the right to hold any activity if not up to standard of protocol set. Is there any chance that once Minister received the report from SAFA compliance officer that football could not resume this weekend? What changed in the directives in the regulations around playing in hotspot areas now that the BSE is in Gauteng? The next question is from Vikas from Neetwerk24. When will rugby matches and contact practices be allowed to resume? This is in light of PSL matches that will now be allowed behind closed doors. Are any negotiations with SARU and other unions underway? At what stage are these negotiations and when will we expect an answer? The next question is from Haynes from Sport24. Is government still reviewing SA's rugby return to play application? The last one from Trudy from Sports Trader. Has netball applied to resume play? If so, is it under consideration or has permission been denied? That's it for now, Chair.
Okay. Thank you. DG is coming to the podium to respond.
Thanks. On the issue of rugby, because all other questions are related to rugby, mostly, as well as netball. Let's start with rugby. Rugby have submitted their plans. They are being evaluated, and as soon as we are done with them, we'll communicate to them. But in terms of resumption of training, as you know, that separated contact sport initially was to say that they can, in the regulations, they will be allowed to do training, subject, of course, to compliance with the health protocols. That rugby, in terms of resumption of play, Minister spoke about the directions that are going to be published during this week, which will then be dealing with the whole approach towards contact sport to guide everyone on how that should be done. But fortunately, rugby had moved a step ahead, and we have their plans, and it's not necessarily negotiations. We enter into its compliance that we engage on based on the plans submitted, and then we look at compliance with both regulations and directions as gazetted by the Minister on relating to health protocols and conditions that will contribute towards containment rather than spread of the virus. So yes, rugby, we are working with them. They've submitted their plans. On the issue of netball, yes, netball have not yet submitted the plans in terms of them having to resume play at this stage. But we are hoping that they will, guided, like Minister indicated with athletics, by their own conscious decision and benchmarking, whether they believe they are ready to resume play. But I must emphasize that from the very regulations that previously were done, before the ones that were signed out towards the end of July, the main essence was that contact sport and non-contact sport were allowed to do training. However, non-contact sport was also permitted to have matches. These are also within the borders of South Africa. The issue of hotspots and Gauteng vis-a-vis the PSL playing, we need to emphasize that the issue of hotspots is about the number of people who have contracted the disease within a particular square meterage in that particular area. So it's about population that has contracted that. Now, what happened here is that when you deal with then the issue of hotspots and the PSE, is how will you comply with the regulations so that even if it is clouding within the hotspot area, it is an area in which there will be no opportunity for the spread of the virus. The PSE then became the best model in which within that vicinity you are able to contain the opportunity or the opportunistic infections that are likely to arise. So Gauteng was chosen despite the fact that there is this, but if you look at the country as a whole, it means nobody must do anything. If you talk about hotspots at this stage, because the disease and the virus spread is affecting almost every community in the country. And that is why then measures are important to be put in place. And the biosafe environment, the biobubble, is the one that was then a convincing measure that the football put in place, and that then became the defining criteria to allow them to resume play and to complete or finish the league. I think, Mr. I've covered the main questions, was about 3. Craig was about rugby. Cloney was about the issue of the minutes I've received. Also the same thing about rugby, PSE, hotspot, and then also another question was about rugby, and then netball.
Okay. There's one more you didn't take that. Thank you very much. DG has covered almost all. It's just one area where Hloni is asking that, does that mean that if Minister feels that football is not complying, soccer would not resume this weekend? Of course, the main important issue for us as the sector is to make sure that we save lives and we maintain livelihoods. We all want football to resume this weekend, but they know as well that they have to comply to the regulations to the T. So we're hoping that nothing will make the football not resume, because I'm sure wherever they are, they will comply. So there is no worry that soccer wouldn't resume. It will resume because they will comply. But if for any reason they don't comply, Minister would not have any alternative, because it's important to us as the sector to make sure that regulations are adhered to the T. Thank you very much.
I think that was the last round.
There's a follow-up. It's the same question from 2 journalists. They want to know what is the deadline for application in the second wave, and where should artists submit their application?
Okay, this will be the last round. The last question, I'm going to give it to the DG. DM? The DM is coming to take that one, and then Minister can just give us the closing remarks immediately after that.
The second wave will be advertised. We have agreed that it will take about 2 weeks, 14 days. Remember, there was a lot of criticism from the first wave that we gave artists and athletes a short time to apply. Minister has explained that all applications, for instance, for the athletes will go through federations, and then federations would be the first line of quality checks, and then they come to the department. So the applications are not opened yet. We will advertise, and so you've got 2 weeks, so you still have got enough time. And as Minister have said, that the relief for the second wave will cover from September to November. So we are hoping that now, August, we're opening the applications, and by the end of August, beginning of September, we start the payment. So you've got 2 weeks to apply. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Thank you, Program Director, and perhaps as we end our briefing today, I want to mention one company I didn't mention, the Hybrid Communications, Jostle Shuttle Services and Projects. This company, which is part of the department's interaction with the private sector, undertook and they did give food parcels to the legends in the industry. We want to thank them as well. We want to also say that the new way of living, we've got to find ways of working within the parameters. It's a depressing period. It's a difficult period for many South Africans and indeed for humanity globally. But in the midst of that difficulty, our spirits are always revived by the creatives in particular, the youth in our midst. As you have noticed, Master KG and his partner there, Nomkebo Zigode, with Jerusalem. Jerusalem has gone viral in the world, has motivated the spirit of the people, and it says to us that there is a future in this country. There is future in the sport and creative industry. Let's support our youth. We have decided, and we decided as the department, that Master KG and Nomkebo are going to be the ambassadors for the next 2 years. We'll assess thereafter. The ambassadors for our cultural diplomacy program as the department. This is the program where we send creatives to other countries on the continent and the world to exchange and showcase their talent. They are also are going to be given a leeway on the touring venture, which is part of the cultural diplomacy program. The touring venture is when artists are requested by people from other countries to come and visit them. So we congratulate them and we encourage others to follow suit. Thank you very much. Thanks.
We have come to the end of our briefing, and I would like to thank the GCIS team for their assistance. I would also like to thank members of the media for their questions, and also our panelists. I think you did clarify to the nation. The responses were quite clear, and there's no confusion. We will be distributing the media statement that the minister was talking to today. And thanks a lot. Stay safe and take care. Adhere to the COVID-19 regulations. Thank you.